and they'll join us through the evening. So we really appreciate everybody who's joined. Thanks so much, and welcome to the session. We're here tonight to celebrate Binim wines from Israel. It's the first Israeli tasting that we've had, and we're very excited. It's a country that's very rich, particularly also wine history as well. Wines date back to 5,000 years. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Dr. Danny Yanif, who is the vigneron, and Mr. Edward Gandler, who runs the winery. And they're introducing their wines today from Israel. We've actually had them flown out especially for this session, and they're coming to Singapore shortly on a wholesale basis. Also, we have some very special guests with us tonight. So we have Ms. Ilana Tsiemach, the Minister of Tourism and consultant for the promotion of Israeli wines. We have Mr. Yossi Ben Urdis, who's a familiar of the Hakralin restaurant and owner of the Fine Wine and Meat Bistro in Tel Aviv. We have Mr. Alon Gonen, a chef and sommelier, and Mr. Louis Pascoe, who's the winemaker at Binim. So thank you very much to the Binim team and to everybody who's joined. And we also have the consulate member for Israel and his wife. So thank you very, very much for joining us. I'm going to hand over to Eddie now, and Eddie will take us through the wine. Eddie?
Tamara, thank you very much for the nice introduction, and also for the great opportunity to do such a non-conventional wine tasting for us. You convinced me last time, and it looks wonderful to have such a unique wine tasting. I would like to say again thank you very much to the Consul of Israel Embassy, for the Rabbi Netanel Rivni, and for Ilanit Tsiemach from the Ministry of Tourism that they joined us. I would like to say a few words about ourselves and about the winery before we go and to conduct the tastings. So we began, Danny and myself, we began our journey almost 50 years ago when Danny and myself immigrated from the former Soviet Union in 1972 with our families. We came to live not far from each other as neighbors, and we became friends. And since the age of 6 or 7, we are very, very good friends. Both of us used to live in a city, but both of us also share a love for wine, for a good wine, and a big passion for creation. Danny is a medical doctor. He probably will say a few words about it, and I will say that that is his main hobby. And I am an engineer in my background, and I spent about 30 years serving my country. And the last few years, I devote to innovation, development of startup, and entrepreneurial ecosystem. Together, Danny and myself took our dream forward and decided 10 years ago to establish a boutique winery. We decided to devote our time for learning, for continuous learning, and to create the best wine we can have, getting mentorship from great winemakers in Israel, coached by wine growers, trained by a lot of teachers and sommeliers. We try to learn from everyone and create the best wine we could. Today, our winery is well known in Israel. We produce about 40,000 bottles, 50% of it exported to US. We exported also to Japan and to Hong Kong. Now we start exporting to Singapore as well. Our specialty is custom-made wine. We do a lot of private barrels, custom-made barrels for high-end customers that come to the winery and try to create their own taste and the bottle they love. For us, it's a great challenge because every customer has its own unique taste and its own unique touch. And we come to this challenge as entrepreneurs, to have an adventure and try to get the best wine we can for each and every customer or a group. I would like to take advantage of this opportunity and let Ilanit Tzemach to say a few words about, because we are lucky to have her with us here, few words about the Israeli wine and what happened with the Israeli wine the last decade or few years. Ilanit, you are here?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. Okay.
Hello.
So maybe.
Yes.
Thanks a lot for joining.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie. Hello. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to see all the audience, all the people that we have here in Singapore. So I'll try to make it short because when I start to speak, it takes a lot of time. I'd like to speak a bit about the Israeli industry, wine industry. Today, Israel is one of the famous wines, and have a lot of work to do there. And what we're trying to do in the last decade is to help boutique wineries, especially boutique wineries, to go over and to introduce them to the world and to introduce the experience and the quality here. Israel is a land of possibilities. We have a variety of wineries, sorts of grapes that we grow here in Israel. And one of the most known areas is, or regions, is the Judea Hills. The Judea Hills, you probably heard about them, and part of them is Binun Winery. What is so special at the Judea Hills? The Judea Hills have a climate, a good climate for growing grapes, and have a good terroir. All the land here, all the land that we have here is very let's say, sorry, I ran out the word. It's very special and very unique because of the kind of soil that we have here. So what you're going to taste during this tasting that you're doing with Binun Winery is just, sorry, Eddie and Danny, it's just one of the top wineries that we have here in the Judean Hills, but also here in Israel. What is so important to know is that we have all sorts of varieties here, from the north up to the south and to the desert, and you can find taste. Everyone can find the taste and the place that you would like to have and you would like to visit. I hope to see you very soon here in Israel to take a tour in the wineries and in the wine routes that we have in here. I won't take a lot of your time, but what I wanted to tell you is a little story about the Binun Winery. I met them, I think it was 8 years ago when I arrived first to the winery, and they gave me to taste the wines, and I said, wow, that's a winning wine. You have to send it to a competition. And they said, no, they were very modest, and they said, no way, it's not going to take a competition. I think it got the double gold, if I'm not wrong. Eddie and Danny, correct me. As you're going to taste it, I think that it's worth the double gold. But what is so unique here is really we have over than 350 boutique wineries in Israel. Maybe for Singapore it sounds small, but it's a lot, and especially in our little country. And what is more important is that we're trying to have several kind and tastes of the wines from all over the country, and each one knows to do the best he can, and you're going to taste one of the best today. It's not a promotion for Binun Winery, but sorry, I must say that I really love their wines, so I hope you will enjoy it. If there are any other questions, send me by chat or afterwards. Yes, please.
Thanks a lot, Ilanit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So now it's time to move over to the winery. Is Danny there?
Hi, everybody. I'm here. Do you hear me? I hope you hear me well. I'm quite far from quite in a heat, so I hope you hear me well.
Danny,
not,
could you turn
please.
on your camera?
It's not. It's working. I see myself. Wait a minute. I will turn the camera.
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Good. Okay.
All right. So you can. I will now stop looking at myself and start showing you around. So in the meanwhile, wait a minute. I'll just turn the camera to the other one. So I'm sitting on a balcony, just observing the vineyard. You can see we are in Binun. Binun is a small village. It's located just in the middle between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv Jaffa. And actually my mother's house is here, and you can see it from there. I'm turning my camera to the other side, and we are sitting on a beautiful porch viewing the winery. And what I will do, I will take you in a tour to the winery, and from them to some of the archaeological findings from the biblical era that we found in the winery, in the vineyard, or approximation to the vineyard. I hope you will enjoy it, and I will meet you in several seconds in the winery. So for time being, I'm just stopping the video and going to the winery because I cannot shoot and go walk in the same time.
I hope he will arrive.
In the meantime, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to put forward, and we'll make sure we cover them? I know there's always a lot of curiosity around exotic regions like Israel, and I think it'd be lovely to ask some questions.
Okay, I'm there. I'm arrived. It took me several seconds, and we are now inside the vineyard. We're going just opposite to our vines, and the vines are now on a very special time. It is the variazel time. That's the time when green grapes turn into black grapes or blue grapes. So you have the variazel. It looks like that, and each and every other cluster of grapes, it looks different, because some of them are extremely green yet, and some of them are almost finished the variation, like this one. We talked a little bit about the terroir. Israel is located just between Asia, Africa, and Europe. So in a tiny area of 200 kilometers, we have a lot of different climates, and we have a lot of different opportunities to plant different types of varietals of wine, of grape wines. So we can produce in Israel many types of blends that are almost impossible to produce in the other places. I want to talk a little bit about the soil and the wind, but I don't know if you hear the wind, because I'm using earpieces and a microphone. But if I would disconnect them, you'll hear and the wind that blows. Just you can see the wind that blows just from the between the rows of the grapes, and you can see the heavy clay soil that is half a meter deep, and under it there's a limestone soil, and limestone and a limestone rock that goes 1 meter down and creates the opportunity to drain water along the slope, with the hill of our vineyard that remains. This allows the vines not to get so much water and to become small and relatively full with anthocyans, phenols, and tannins that allow us to produce quality wines. If anybody has questions about the vineyard, I would be happy to answer.
Danny, hi, this is Doron. I just want to ask how you are coping with the heat wave that is currently hitting Israel.
Okay, we have a huge heat wave that last 2 years. The climate is, and what we did, we buried irrigation system just under. You cannot see of the trees, but I see that's computer assisted, and we are sampling the moisture of the land on half meter down the ground, and we are irrigating according to a system that takes into consideration the moisture of the soil, the needs of the grapes, and the stage at which the grapes are now at the stage of the grapes. That means if we, in the beginning of the season, we will allow much more moisture and much more water to go into the grape. At the end of the season, after veraison, we will start cutting the amount of water that the grapes are getting in order to make them more concentrated and more full with materials that we want to preserve in the wine. Is there any other questions? If no, I'm going to take you back 1,000 years before Christianity and we'll walk to King Solomon region, and I will show you the.
Annie, I have a question. I've got two questions for you, actually, because this is amazing. The first question I have is back towards the past. Obviously, it's been a wine growing area for thousands of years, and I find that fascinating. Is there anything that you have learned from those who've come before you as winemakers and integrated into your viticulture expertise? Is there anything that you do differently to other parts of the world that you've learned from the history of Israeli winemaking?
I think the history of winemaking by Jews is very unique, and it's meticulously preserved from this age till now. It's a kosher. When you speak about kosher wine, you cannot do anything else according to the Judaism. That means wines not allowed to have any added water, any added sugar, any added materials, any added fruits or any added taste. That's big. So when you see a kosher 100% wine made on the kosher way, that means there's no other. It's very natural. It's pure wine. It's nothing be added. Even water, you cannot add water in order to change the concentration of sugar or something like that. You cannot add anything, and that is one of the things that we are preserving, I suppose, from the biblical era till now, the kosher way to grow and produce wine. I'll go now to the ancient winery that we found, and I'll stop the video and I will join you there, and we'll discuss it a little bit more. So I'm stopping the video and I'm walking. Edit, take control until I get it.
Tamara, also, if I can add, all the additives, doesn't matter which one of them, if it is wood or any other substance, chemical or other one, supposed to go through the kosher procedure, and that means a lot of restrictions regarding use of animal or regarding the use of any other substance that is not natural.
Yeah, this is really interesting actually, and it's fascinating to see the evolution of those rules as well. We have a question from Minnie Jura. She says, do you use sulfur?
Yes, we use sulfur. We use sulfur at a very minimal capacity. Practically, we measure it at a molecular level. We measure every barrel every month and add exactly what is needed until a certain amount during all the maturation, fermentation and maturation.
That sounds like a wonderful balance. Dan, do we have you on camera? Anne Healy is asking if the wine is vegan.
Some of the wines are vegan. Our white wine is vegan. Depends on the vineyards. The vineyard is totally vegan. Our Chenin Blanc. Other wines are not vegan.
Thank you.
Here, Danny arrived.
Hi, everybody. Do you hear me? I hope you hear. Okay, we are standing just very close to the winery, to the vineyard. Just the vineyard is all over these bushes, and we are looking on a very famous Ayalon Valley from the biblical area, which if you know a little bit about the Bible, you are suppose you heard about the Ayalon Valley, where the many battles were fought. And this is what you see in the distance. This little hill, it's the Gezer Hill. Gezer was the name of the ancient Jewish settlement, ancient Palestine settlement. That now it's the name of the municipality that we're living in. It's the municipality of Gezer. But the Gezer actually there's no settlement there. It's an archaeological site, and what we see here actually is an ancient wine press from 1000 BC that we found just near the vineyard. You see that it's curved inside the stone like a rectangular in a rectangular way. You can see that grapes were put here. The people were going on the grapes and crushing them with their bare feet, and the juice was used to go from this ditch into a collecting tank that is no longer exist here, but we can see a little bit of the plaster that used to surround this cover this tank. And this is a 1000 BC wine press, very ancient. I think it's one of the most ancient that we can find in Israel. And from here we can walk a little bit to the other things that we found here.
It's almost like going on holiday. We can't travel.
Yeah,
it's all lockdown.
But it's
at least the closest we get.
It's 45. It's 40 degrees. It's 40 degrees Celsius here. It's extremely hot.
Yeah.
And it's extremely dry now. So I think in Singapore now it's also not so cold, but it's quite moisture. There's the moisture there is, I suppose, much more than here. It's extremely hot and extremely dry.
Rain.
Yeah. Now, as you see, everything is now in brown colors because of the heat. Oh, there's almost no green that you can see, but we're arriving to a very interesting press. If you have a picture, Tamara, do you have a picture that they sent you? If you can show them, it will be nice. Picture of the press, how it looked like. It's a weight press. It's a very ancient press that is looks like that. Wait, I'll show it to you. It's a stone with a ditch going around it. Okay, and inside the stone, they made a big hole inside, and I tried to do some image of it, but of course I didn't use those huge wood blocks. I couldn't do that. I just did something primitive to show you how it was done. So inside there was a wooden block that was inside the stone, and to it there was a huge wooden beam that was attached to this vertical beam. There was a horizontal beam that was attached to this vertical beam, and what they used to do is bring the melt, that the things that left after they pressed the wine with their feet into other in baskets, in baskets, and put the basket one upon each other right here under this beam. This beam was raised up. It wasn't like that, so I'll just show you how it's done. It was raised up like that and put on the baskets, and then they would hang huge stones, heavy stones on this side of the beam. So there was a great pressure on the baskets that were surrounded, that were here under the beam. The wine that was pressed out of the baskets would go into those ditches and go directly and collected. Look at it, everything is curved in the stone. They collected in the collecting tank. You can see the parts of the collecting tank that are still here. So this is like a very ancient press machine that we use, of course, now in our winery. We use modern presses, but this is, I think, very, very ancient and very, very effective press that was built here 1,000 years before Christianity. Now I want to go and to show you something very, very unique that a finding that from my point of view is the most I was the most impressed by. We are going now a little bit back, and I will show you something. Hello?
Yes. While Danny is walking, I just would like maybe to make a small correction. Gezer, as far as we know from history, was an Egyptian part that was given by the king of Egypt, the pharaoh, to the King Solomon when King Solomon married his daughter.
Yes.
Sounds like a wonderful gift.
Yeah, that was this area. Yeah, that was a gift.
Wow, very, very special.
What we see here is very, very, very special, and it's very, very unique. What we see here, it's called mikveh. Mikveh is a rainwater reservoir designed for religious purposes. As you see, wine was used in the ancient world as it's used today for ritual purposes or for sacramental purposes. The winemaking process in Judaism is very meticulous, and it still now is supervised by the religious people, as you asked me before. So before making wine, the farmers and the people that were that touched the grapes and touched the wine had to immerse themselves in a mikveh to produce wine in purity, because the wine was used to then go to the temple, to the temple in Jerusalem and the other temples. After that, after this temple was ruined, so wine is very, very important in Judaism, and the community that lived here produced wine, and they had to pure themselves before they start producing wine. So that's why they made a mikveh in proximity to their winery, to their site. So when you find a mikveh, this is a conclusive and proof that Jewish farmers who created wine for sacred purposes sat in this place. And this is very, very, for me, it's very, very, I was very impressed that actually Jews sat here 3,000 years ago and produced wine. This is, for me, it's very, very, I was impressed by it. So from now I will walk back and we'll go to the winery itself, to the barrel room.
Well, could we just ask a question? We're looking at this amazing landscape. It really is stunning, but it also looks like there's not a lot of rain. We had a question from the audience, I believe it was Jeff, who's asking, do you irrigate your vines? And if so, how many times a year do you irrigate?
Yes, I think I answered this question earlier. We had an irrigation system that is buried under the vines. It's computer controlled and moisture driven. That means there are sensors that are buried half a meter below the ground, and they are feeling the moisture, and the computer system is irrigating according to the system that we plan to do. So it's irrigated.
So much.
It's irrigated. So I'm just gonna walk because it's quite hot here. I'm gonna walk back to the winery. I will shoot the. I will stop the video and we'll talk a little bit later.
What a treat. This has been fantastic. We're trolling through Israel and the Judean Valley. It's absolutely gorgeous. Eddie?
Tamara, until Danny will come to the winery back, it'll take him a few minutes.
Okay.
Would you like to start talking about the tasting, or to have a few questions?
Can we hear from one of the sommeliers that you've invited to join us? We have some very prestigious sommeliers who tried this wine. You could hand over.
Alon Gonen, are you here?
Yes, can you hear me?
I think we have some echo.
There's some echo. Somebody else has got a dual login.
Or Yossi Benadis?
Yeah, I think Eddie is not logged in. So Eddie's just joined us from Israel. He's actually flown in several days ago from Israel. So he's actually in quarantine now in Singapore. And he'll escape from quarantine in about just under 2 weeks. So there are some audio issues, but we just need to make sure there's only one Zoom login in each location.
But it's quite a good way to spend time during quarantine.
Yes, very much so. Very much.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to connect because we can't all meet outside. So it looks like going under lockdown even further.
Just haven't seen if Yossi or Alon are here. Let me see.
Sorry, Eddie?
No, I haven't seen if Yossi or Alon, if one of them are here or still here, because I saw them at the beginning.
Tamara, can I
Okay.
ask a question? Can I ask a question for the group?
Absolutely.
Okay, how many of you have ever tasted Israeli wines? I would like to, and how many of you visited Israel in the last, let's say, 5 years before the COVID?
Actually, I can ask a question on that, I think.
Okay, because it's very interesting for us as the Ministry of Tourism to understand whether people are aware of the wines that we have here or about the tourism that we have here, except all the Orthodox tourism, if all the lifestyle that we have here. So it's really interesting for me to know whether people heard about it, thought about it, and even if they have any plans to visit Israel for a wine tour and not only for an Orthodox tour.
So I've just asked if anybody's had an Israeli wine before, and I'll just
Yep, Chenki here. I've gone there quite a few number of times. Great food, great wines. Chateau Castel, right into the right at the border with Lebanon and Golan Heights. Tremendous amount of wines. I enjoy it very much.
Great. Thank
Actually,
you. Thank you.
I think I've also tried some Israeli wines a few years ago. I go to Passover every year with Jewish friends. And it's an extraordinary feast with beautiful wines and a lot of history and philosophy.
That's great. Because it's important for us to that people will explore the wines and the abilities that we have here. It's really important for us to know what's the impression that we're living on our tourists or on our customers, possible customers. Yeah.
I'm sure many of us will join you in Israel to visit once restrictions lift. Actually, I've put up a poll, so
Hi,
if
everybody.
would like to respond to the poll, we'd be very happy to hear from you.
Oh, that's great. I see the chat. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you. And I believe we have Danny back.
You are
We're in the
all
winery. So,
Yes, well, I'm back. Well, I think I deserve a cold rosé, but now I'm inside the conditioned environment and I have a beautiful bottle of rosé wine with me. So I'll open it up with you, with all of you together. But first, we're gonna see. This is the private barrel room. This is the private barrel room. These barrels are private barrels, are dedicated to people that are blending their own blends in our winery. And some of them are ours, and some of them are theirs. We are using French oak wine barrels, and I think Eddie will add a little bit about that. The tank room is currently closed because the religious people just left. They're not working now. So I cannot go into this tank room without them. I cannot go into the barrel room without them. So we have like a beautiful glass walls to show the barrel room, but I cannot go into the barrel room. I'm restricted by a glass because if I'm not religious, I cannot go into the wine room itself. Eddie, do you want to add something?
No, I think I think it's about time you can rest in the air condition. I think we can go
Good.
to the wine tasting.
Very nice. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining me. And I hope I will see you in Israel shortly. Bye, everybody.
so, Danny, if you could stay on the
Bye,
line for a
Danny.
few more minutes, we have
I
a
will
few more
say,
questions.
yes, but I
Okay,
will
super.
close. I will close the video.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay,
Bye.
handing over to Eddie. I think we have a couple of sommeliers speaking.
I don't sign. We will wait until they come, okay? Because I saw them before and now I don't have them. So we'll continue with the tasting, and then when they come, they can address the wines.
Okay, brilliant. So some of you will have a wine card. We have either 5 or 6 wines here tonight. Eddie will take us through, and Eddie, we're taking the rosé first, aren't we?
Yes, yes.
Brilliant. I'll hand over. I got to say, this was one of the wines that really excited me when we first tried these Israeli wines. We tried 2 in a lineup of Eastern wines, wines from Syria, Bulgaria, Armenia, etc. And the rosé absolutely stood out. It was stunning. The rosé is this one here.
One second. This rosé is all grown in our estate. All the grapes you have seen. Danny walked through those grapes, and we grow them ourselves. It's a very unique rosé because it's a blend of mainly Sangiovese with a little bit Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot from exactly the vineyard that you saw 1 minute ago. And it's very refreshing. It's not a light body, it's a medium body. It's crispy. It has a little bit bitterness on the palate, grapefruit, and I hope you will enjoy it.
Eddie Lechaim, Danny Lechaim.
Lechaim, Lechaim.
Sorry, guys, we have a question from one of the sommeliers at Zen. We're very, very lucky to have Warren Estrock join us. Let me just, Warren's here tonight with us at the tasting.
So I was just wondering, since you plant a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon and international grape varieties, what other grape varieties do you plant? Do you have any intention of planting Italian or Spanish varieties, or any other local indigenous grapes that may exist in the Judean hills? And also, how is it that all the wines have this very apparent spice in them, especially all the red wines have a lot of spice. Like I get this, it's like, it's like Middle Eastern or Asian, kind of spices that I get on the nose. Do you have any comments about the chemicals or that are present in these wines that give this kind of aromas? So what is it that is responsible for these kind of spices?
Okay, I'll thank you for the question. I'll try to address it partially, and then due to the fact my teacher, mentor, and our head winemaker is here, and it's Luis Pasco, I will ask him to elaborate even more. Historically, the grapes that were typically to that region, to our country, used to be the same grapes like in Cyprus or in the south of Greece. Most of them were destroyed, and we don't have almost anything from those grapes. 100 and something years ago, it's about 150 years ago, Rothschild, the grandfather from yes, the founder, not the founder, but Rothschild family from Chateau Lafite, came to Israel and brought a lot of varieties, mainly French ones, to try and see what's gonna be good in Israel. And mainly the grapes that we have are French oriented. Later on in Israel, we started to get to know to Spanish ones and to Italian ones. But mainly, if you come and see and try to see what are the main grapes in Israel, they are from France. It's not originally, I mean, we didn't have Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and Shiraz and Cabernet Franc in Israel typically, but we do have them from the north to the south. We started to grow Sangiovese, and it's very nice in our area. There's also a very nice Sangiovese at the north of Israel. We have some good Tempranillo. But mainly, if you look at Israeli wines, it'll be French style because of the grapes, because of raw material.
So basically, like Languedoc kind of blends, like Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah kind of blends with a little bit of other varieties. Okay.
Yes. And it's rare, very rare to find local grapes. There are few wineries that try to grow ancient local grapes like Jandali, Hamdani, and those ones. They are very rare.
Okay, it's cool.
Yeah, and maybe Luis, you are here. Maybe you can add some words, and also maybe you introduce yourself a little bit. He's my teacher and mentor, and he's the guy that made our winery to be a boutique, excellent winery. Luis, you are muted. Tamara, if you can unmute Luis Pasco.
Hello.
You did very well.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Hello to everyone. I want to address a couple of questions that came up here and there. The vineyard that Danny walked through is about 10 years old now. It's planted in 2010, 2010 or 2011, maybe 2010. So it's 11
2011. Yes.
10 years old. Okay, I knew it was one of those two. So it's a 10-year-old vineyard. That question came up, and I wanted to answer that. I wanted to also address the question just now about spices, because Danny was focusing on the history and the rich, almost prehistory in terms of the ancient grape growing and winemaking in the area, the proof of the Judaism, the archaeology he was focusing on. He didn't mention that as he walked back and forth away from the vineyard toward the archaeological sites that are at the vineyard, he didn't mention all the wild herbs that are growing in the area. So when you talk about spices in Israeli wine, I can tell you that I believe quite distinctly you get echoes of the spices that are growing naturally in the region. Predominantly za'atar. There's at least one or two others I don't know the name of, but they're edible common spices. Not in our area exactly, but some in the more high elevation vineyards. You will see wild mint, wild thyme, all these flavors. I've been making wine before Ben Nun since 1998. I was educated in California, 97. Since 97, I've been making wine in Israel. And I have seen and myself made wines that had really noticeably in particular herbaceous contents of spices. One wine that was remarkably like mint, others that were quite a bit showing a za'atar or sage characteristics. Za'atar is oregano or a variant of oregano. And the other element that's not part of the grapes, which is very significant in winemaking, is the use of barrels. We prefer to use French barrels. We use almost only French barrels, but we have also tried some Hungarian barrels. We may be introducing in the future some American barrels, but the nuances of the barrels and how you have them toasted and arranged, this is where primarily the spicy characters of the wine comes from that aren't from the grapes themselves. That's what I wanted to add. Hi, Yossi.
I just want to say a few words about this guy that was talking just now. Okay, it's Luis Pasco. He is a master of. He has a master in winemaking from UC Davis. He was the head of winemakers in Tishby Winery and earned the gold medal at the Chalet International du Vin in Bordeaux. And also, he was the head winemaker of Recanati Winery in Israel. And among his first 5 vintages, he won the trophy at Vintec Bordeaux 3 times as Israeli best wine. In 2015, Luis joined our team at Binun Winery, made us to be quite professionals, took in charge as the Binun's head winemaker and moved his own production of his own Pasco brand to Binun Winery. Have I forgot something?
That is fine. That is fine, Eddie. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Luis.
You followed the script perfectly.
And thank you for mentorship for all those years. Thanks a lot. And if Yossi is here, maybe Yossi can add as Israel top sommelier a few words as well.
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon.
Because the barrel spices.
I'm working with the Binun Winery for the last 2.5 years. I'm the owner of a restaurant in Tel Aviv that's called the Hat Raklin. It's a house of Israeli boutique wineries. We're representing 120 different wineries in Israel. They said already that there is almost 300, it's between 300 to 400 wineries in Israel. And some of them very small and some of them bigger. And when I tested Binun for the first time, it was, I opened my eyes and I didn't believe it's so good and quality from such a small winery in that days. And every year I try to pick the right wines for my place again and again. And I saw the faces of my client open when they trying the wine and they didn't know about the winery because it's only on his first step in that days. And after 2.5 years, I can tell you every year is better from the year before. Usually the wine need to age and to be better from if you taste the wine backward. But in Binun, every year it's better more and more. And today, even a few hours before, I just made a reservation and I found the wine excellent this year again. And in the last 2 years, they're making white wines and rosé, very good quality rosé. And yesterday night, I didn't tell you, Eddie, one of my customers came and he said, listen, I have to tell you something. There is a boutique winery that you don't know about him. It's called Binun. They're making excellent wine. Why you don't have it? And I say, usually we have it, but all the bottles, we sold all the bottles already. So now I need to order again. So Simon, we enjoy your wines every evening again and again to show the customer, to taste with the customer. So
That's
keep
a
having
big compliment.
good quality wine for us. Excuse me, I didn't hear.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Should we move to the next wines now?
Thanks a
We'll
lot.
try and finish up by sort of 1:15 maybe, and we'll get through the next wines. The rosé is
Yes. Now I suggest to open the Reserve 2018. The Reserve brand is our main production. That's a Bordeaux style blend, mainly Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot. In this year is also a little bit Cabernet Franc and Petit Syrah, and sorry, Petit Verdot. Yes, this one. Yeah, this one. That's our main production. Most of this wine goes to the United States. And it's easy to drink wine. It's ready to drink. We made it in purpose that you can open the bottle, drink it immediately. Mainly under the it's our main production to be accessible to everyone and to have a good wine that is in barrels for about 12 months. Can't age, but ready to drink.
I might just mention, because it's two wines that have very similar labels. This is the 2018. So one of them, the other label would be the Estate Reserve.
Yes.
But this is the 2018. So just make sure you've got the right one.
Yes. We open now the 2018. If you open 2017, it's even better to open the 2017, but don't taste it now. Put it aside. It's going to be the last one that we're going to taste. The 2017 that has that one. Okay, 2017 is going to be the last one we're going to taste. They are totally different. We just changed the labels from 2017 and on, but now they look pretty much the same.
So some people who were in the trade got an extra bottle, the 2017 Estate Reserve. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough wine in Singapore to send this to everybody because we're still shipping things over. But rest assured, you can get this wine soon. So hopefully we'll find it in local restaurants very shortly. Sylvia, which restaurants are already ordering Vinum?
In Singapore, we have one restaurant that ordered our wines. Unfortunately, I cannot reveal the name because they haven't opened yet. They're going to open and have their PR and everything. They asked me not to publish it, but we do have a very, hopefully very fine restaurant to serve our wines. Hopefully we'll have few others as well, but that particular one we cannot reveal the name.
Okay, very exciting, very mysterious, but we'll hold on. I can certainly attest, if it's a Jewish restaurant, like if it's Jewish food, it's absolutely delicious. It's some of the best food.
It is not a Jewish one.
Okay. Well, clearly
I think we had a question as well. Someone wanted to know whether the Israeli wines is served in the Israeli restaurant here.
If you know Israeli restaurants, let me know. I'll go there after quarantine. Because most of the time I go to the local restaurants, but it's very hard to find an Israeli restaurant. As far as I know, there is only one in town.
So now we know how new the wines are in Singapore.
Yeah. So how do you like the wine? Do you have any questions or something that you want to ask?
Eddie, can I ask something from Israel?
Definitely.
You have produced wine in Israel, in a very warm country. And what about Singapore? How does Singapore can get the all alcohol and the sweetness in the wine that you produce?
Can you repeat? I didn't get it well.
You are produce wine in Israel, that Israel is very, very warm country. How the Singapore and all this area can handle this sweetness and the alcohol that you are in the wine, like 14 or 15% alcohol?
Okay. Warm countries tend to have a higher alcohol and lower acidity. We try to harvest at the point that the alcohol will not exceed 13 and a half, 14, but not more than 14. Most of the years we reach a very, very optimal point when harvesting, getting the fruit mature, getting the phenolic ripeness, and still not losing the acidity. Okay, that is a very, very important optimization point. Definitely, the same Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot, when you compare from hot countries or from cold countries, it will be different taste. But I think all our wines are balanced. That's my opinion, but you can try it and see. All of them are around, the red ones are around 14% alcohol, no sugar at all. They are totally dry. If you feel sweetness, it's not from sugar and it's not residual sugar. It's derivatives of fermentation and aging. And they're totally dry, about 13 and a half, 14% alcohol. I think a balanced acidity, not the acidity of Italians or French wines, but acidity that can preserve the wine and have, and for me it's balanced, but it depends on the palate. Maybe Luis can say some words about it as well.
Well, do I have to unmute? Can you hear me or am I muted? Let me. Okay, I believe you can hear me. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
We have planted, one of the reasons that we have planted some Sangiovese, some Marcellan, some Malbec, on top of the Bordeaux. Most of the wines you're tasting now are, of course, from classic Bordeaux varieties, but we've also planted and are now making wines, not yet bottled, many of them, but we are making wines from other varieties, which typically hold acid even a little bit higher than the classic Bordeaux varieties. As Eddie mentioned, there is a very careful attention paid to an optimal picking point in terms of having a decent level of acidity in the wines to match the alcohol flavors. We do tend to have higher alcohol wines, although to my knowledge, in the modern world, where you have the influence of certain critics, I won't name any particular people, who push for extreme ripeness, we don't go in that direction. We simply don't do it. We could produce 15.5% alcohol wines. We don't. It's not our goal. We are looking to make more elegant things. My own background, Eddie mentioned it, my particular success with other wineries in experiences in Vinexpo Bordeaux, not only winning the trophy as the best wine in Israel several times in a short period of time, not only that, but I have been rewarded by visits of large groups of enology students from the University of Bordeaux. It was even before I was with Recanati, when I was with Tishby. I had one or two enology students stop by and taste my Sauvignon Blanc, and they were like, wow, how do you do this in Israel? And a few days later, I was practically giving a class on the production of Sauvignon Blanc to Bordeaux enology students, which is a crack up because, okay, Bordeaux is known for Sauvignon Blanc as one of the prime ingredients of white Bordeaux. But I had learned in California under an Australian winemaker to make the New Zealand style. And I brought that to Israel, and it turns out Sauvignon Blanc withstands heat, holds its acid, And depending on the viticultural method that you use, you can get very green, herbaceous, tropical, passion fruit flavors, guava flavors. These can be held by techniques of winemaking. Blah, blah, blah. The point is, we have always looked to make classical wines. I have always looked to make classical wines. And where we can, we are paying attention in the vineyard to recreate those classical structures, even if our climate is a bit hotter than the typical Bordelais climate. That's it. End of that lecture.
Brilliant. Actually, that's a really interesting question. I think it's important for everyone to know, why can't we grow wines in Singapore? We have actually a second-year MW student who's one of my mentors, and I absolutely revere his knowledge about this. Actually, we also have an MW, Ying, on the call too. So either Alex or Ying, can you answer the question of why we can't grow wines in Singapore and why diurnal range is so important?
Okay, I'll just answer very quickly because I need to dash in a minute. It's a tropical climate here, which Israel is not, even though it's warm and arid and hot. And the growing season's just going to be too short to have proper phenological development of the grapes, so that you develop complexity and phenolic complexity. You'll get phenolic ripeness, but you won't get the same level of complexity. You just need a slightly longer growing season. And there's no real dormancy for the vine. And I think most of the viticulturists will agree that you need a certain amount of dormancy for the vine to sort of rejuvenate and restart again. So there are quite a lot of reasons why tropically, in a tropical place where we have no altitude, it's just heat and humidity, you could easily have 2 harvests a year. And in some tropical countries, you could do that. It's not really going to work in places in Southeast Asia, like Thailand, where they make some wine. They tend to do it at high altitude. So you get a little bit of diurnal difference and a little bit of moderation of temperature. I'll defer to the winemakers here and the viticulturists because I'm not in that specialist field, but that's my understanding of why it doesn't really work so well in the tropics.
Thank you so much, Ying. Yeah, so that's fantastic. We answered that question. I think a lot of people ask that question. A lot of people get very excited about growing wine in the backyard, but unfortunately, it's not going to work. Okay, so should we move on with the rest of the tasting? Thank you so much, Ying.
Yes, I'll ask you to take the black one. Okay, it's written a cuvée.
Okay, so this is the black.
Cuvée, yes,
Black
yes, yes. It's 2018. It's a black one. Yes. It's practically also, I just would like that you will compare both styles, because the first red one was a Bordeaux style and this one is a Bordeaux style. And if we go to Bordeaux, we have a right hand and left hand of the river. Okay, so the first one, yes, this one now is this one. So the first one, this bottle, was mainly Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and all the others, like the other ingredients that makes the wine more complex. This bottle is like, and I say like, and I will say again, it's not Saint-Emilion style, okay? In the mechanical structure, mainly Merlot, and then Cabernet, okay? So practically Bordeaux style, the first one was Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot. This one is Merlot Cabernet Sauvignon, okay? They are totally different. Also from different vineyards. The first one was not from our vineyard. It's Judean Hills vineyard, but it's a bit more to Jerusalem side, like 20 kilometers, 10, 15 kilometers from our vineyard. This one is everything from our vineyard, and it's mainly Merlot. And you can see and try to taste the differences. The same year, the same method of production. This guy, not 12 months in a barrel, is 15 months in a barrel, so you can feel a little bit more the tannins and the wood.
I'd really love to taste this wine in 10 years, actually. I think it's got a lot of potential to age.
Yeah. It's quite early to open it, but it's still possible.
Actually, I have a question for you. What kind of food would you put this with if you're drinking it now?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
What kind of food would you put this with if you are drinking it now?
This one.
Yeah.
Kebab is good. Meat is good. I mean, chicken, meat, fish as well. Not very spicy, but a little bit spices. It's great because it has enough acidity to go with the spicy food as well. It's not very heavy wine, but it has a character. So I wouldn't use it with a lamb, because lamb can take over the wine, even though you can. But next one is better for my taste. But it can go with a main dish easily. I think it's a good wine. It's a balanced one. It's very complex one, and it's a Merlot style, so it's not very like aggressive. Has a soft ending.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Cheese, good Italian and French cheese goes wonderful with it.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll probably move a little bit faster on the next wine, just so we make sure we cover all wines before the end of the night. Eddie, which one's up next? The deep purple or the special edition? Eddie, I think you're on mute. Eddie?
I'm sorry. We go for the same year special edition. Okay. The reason it's a special edition is the combination of this wine. In France, you will not find such a blend. It's a French style. It's a Cabernet. All the ingredients are French. We call it 50-30-20. It's 50% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, and 20% Petit Syrah. The Petit Syrah is from a different region in France. So in France, they will not be able to make that kind of blend. Okay? But we brought them together. And the result, from my point of view, is amazing because that's a very full body wine, a lot of fruit, a lot of flowers, a lot of substance. It's excellent with meat or with the main meal. It's like when I eat a good meal, I drink this wine. And it's because of the Petit Syrah, the special combination with the Petit Syrah, the color, the depth, and the taste as well. You can take a look at the color. It's quite different. It's a purple a little bit, dark one. You will be able to feel the difference in body. Also 15, it's the same 15 as the previous one, 15 months in a barrel. In a French one, 50% of the barrels are new. and this wine can age for quite a long time. Do you have any question for those three blends of 2018? Was very different, each one from another.
Many people are commenting on the herbal notes of the wine, so a lot of positive responses there.
You know, I'm limited. I'm a man. I cannot do two things parallel.
I think we're almost I got to say, this is probably
I cannot talk and read parallel. I cannot.
I think this is probably the most successful and also stressful testing that we've had, because so many people wanted to join us and taste the wines. So, you know, we're all exhausted, but very, very happy.
Okay. If we are done with those three types of French blend from 2018, I suggest now to open. It's not a single malt, but it's 100% Cabernet Franc. It's the purple one. It's a different wine. It's not a blend. It is a quite unique Cabernet Franc. Not a lot of wineries produce 100% Cabernet Franc. As far as I know, in Israel, not a lot. Very few wineries, can I say, dare to make Cabernet Franc, because Cabernet Franc as a single, let's say 100%, only 5 or 6% of the people drink Cabernet Franc 100%. From the statistic I know. So it's not worth for a winemaker to make 100% Cabernet Franc. I love this grape. I think it's a gorgeous wine. It's a father of Cabernet Sauvignon and the father of Merlot. And this wine is very special. It was 1.5 years in a French oak barrel. It's very gentle, even though it's very typical to Cabernet Franc. You can feel the bell pepper and the spices and everything that characterize the wine. You can see a different color. It's a color of Cabernet Franc. And this bottle for me is very unique, and it was very challenging making this wine to be a very typical Cabernet Franc.
It's actually, from my experience, I'm studying for the diploma. It's very difficult to find a straight Cabernet Franc, certainly in Singapore, and I haven't come across that many. So for my study, I certainly very much appreciate Cabernet Franc, and I also recommend other people who are doing the WSET 3 or 4 to take a look at this wine.
This wine, and fortunately, people love this wine, and we don't have a lot of it. But if I could, I would let this wine to lie like another 5 or 7 or 10 years. I think every year that it will not be opened, it'll be greater. It's like a marathon runner, and it can age for many years to come.
I totally agree. Yes, and it's really you know, you never think of Cabernet Franc as standing on its own, but this really stands well by itself. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's just a wine to enjoy. even without the food, just enjoy the wine. If you are a red wine lover, you probably would like this wine.
So we have one last one. We have the Estate Reserve, I believe.
Yep. The Estate Reserve is like the father of this guy, of the black one. Okay. 2017, it was this one. Sorry, this one. 2017, yes. And 2018, it started to be this one, the black one. Okay. This wine is practically, if I can say, that is our character and typical footprint of our winery. We grew these grapes, as Louis said, 10 years ago. We planted them. Those are the grapes and the vineyard that you saw when Danny was walking and having the tour. It's those grapes, the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Merlot. It's a Bordeaux style blend, mainly from Merlot grapes. The Merlot is very, very typical and very good in our area, and is very strong, is much better than the Cabernet Sauvignon. When people that are not known to the area and we give them 2 glasses of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot from our vineyards, most of the people are mistaken and think the Merlot is the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Cabernet Sauvignon is Merlot, because the Merlot is much better in our area. So that is our best field, and I don't know if I can say the best wine, but the wine that we invest more. All the way 100%, it's our wine, growing, producing, 1.5 to 2 years in a barrel. 50% of barrels are new. 30%, 25% 1 year, 25% 2 years. Mainly Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and like Saint-Emilion style. This bottle won 3 gold medals. One of them in South Korea, and I hope you will enjoy it.
I also think this one has an extraordinary retention for age. So I'm definitely going to find a bottle if I can. If there's another one spare ready, and I'm going to put it away.
Yeah, that's the reason we don't have a lot of it, because we didn't know it's gonna be so good. And at the beginning we thought, okay, we got another wine like usual, but it's not. And as Louis said, no, every winemaker has its own credentials and achievements. So this wine got 2 years ago in a competition, not only the gold medal in South Korea, but also the best red wine of competition in Europe.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I've also got comments from the Australians saying they love it. It is actually, I think, would work really well in Australia too. But please save it for Singapore.
So I hope you like it.
We do very much. Okay, we've gone a little bit over time. Do we have any last questions? Just check the chat. Nope. Okay. Really appreciate everybody joining, and thank you so much for staying so long. It's been a fantastic evening. It almost feels like a holiday since we can't travel. And thank you so much to Eddie and Dan as well, and everybody else who contributed. Really appreciate it, and have a lovely evening. We'll see you again soon.
Tamara, I want to thank you very much for the wonderful evening setup, arrangement, logistics, and really the opportunity to meet all those wonderful people. Looking forward to get out of this stay-home notice and drink wine together. Hopefully we can meet and socialize as soon as possible here in Singapore.
Absolutely.
And thanks a lot for everything you have done. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Actually, I just want to call out as well. This is a joint collaboration with Sylvia, and it's not possible without Maria. So Maria's my best friend in Singapore, and she helped pull this off. So, thank you so much, Sylvia and Maria.
Yes, thanks a lot.
I think we have quite a few questions inside about the prices of the wine and all that. So we're waiting for Eddie to give us the price list of how much he's gonna sell here in Singapore. And then if you have any further questions, you can forward to Eddie directly or maybe Dan. Yeah. Thanks, Eddie, for giving us the wines and giving us this opportunity as well to taste all the interesting Israeli wines. I think the feedback has been amazing. Like everyone loved the wines like so much. I think my WhatsApp is like, wow, bursting already. And my guests are me also. Yeah, they are loving the wines.
Sylvia, thanks a lot. It's a different story how we met with you and Judy. It was quite a coincidence, and thank you very much for everything you did. I definitely will continue talking tomorrow morning and try to do as much as possible to bring the wines here to Singapore.
I think Eddie has some coming in on the way. He told us this morning he actually brought in 2 pallets, and on the way here from Israel to Singapore, more than 70% have been snapped up. So I think he has 30% left for us.
Yeah, it's the quick and the thirsty here, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I was like commenting to Tamara. I said, he only has 50 bottles of rosé left for us. Oh dear.
Eddie, I'm going to be the quick one and say, please save some for me.
He has something to say. He said, he just commented, rosé is the best.
Rosé is the best.
We need more rosés, Eddie.
When I came to Singapore, few people told me rosé and white wines are not accepted here, only red wines. So I think in a quite a hot country, rosé and white wines are amazing here. And the culture of wine, definitely in hot countries, during lunchtime, also in dinners. Rosé is quite an excellent appetizer. It's a little bit bitter, a little bit acid, crispy. It's great to as an appetizer or with seafood. So I assume there is a lot of room for rosé as well.
Absolutely, and this is fantastic. I didn't even think I liked rosé before this. So brilliant. I'm going to close the session now. Really appreciate it, and everybody, hope you have a lovely evening. Ciao.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.